Once again, on behalf of Voltaire, I welcome you, Dr. Jain, and I really thank you to accept this invitation to address our Voltaire team in this unprecedented situation, how to manage stress and cope with the stress. I really thank you, and over to you to start the session.
Thank you so much. Uh, I guess we'll make a start. Right. Thank you so much for everybody joining in. I can see that we got 20 or 30 plus people already on board. So it's good to see. I hope more numbers join in because this is a topic that is quite important, I think, and this is a topic that is well addressed in current times. It was previously very heavily ignored, like we all ignore our stress and we also ignore our mind over our body, and we ignore our emotions over our desires and likes and so on. So this talk is about stress management. Uh, Before we go on to make a start, I'll introduce myself. I'm Dr. Roshan Jain. I'm a senior psychiatrist and de-addiction specialist at Apollo Hospital in Bangalore. So there are three Apollos. I work at two, the Apollo Jayanagar and Apollo Banagatam. And I've been with Apollo for the last 10 years. This was since my return to India in 2011. Previously, I worked in England for 15 years, mostly in London, in Birmingham, and mostly in Nottingham, University of Nottingham Medical College and School. I was a senior psychiatrist there. We plan to return to India because India is home, and India is where there was just seeing more life, energy, and enthusiasm. And I was born and brought up in Bangalore, so I knew that an energy and enthusiasm that we see in India is lacking in Western countries. So I did come back, and I think it was a good decision. 10 years on, I think this was an absolutely right decision I made. So moving on to the topic itself, stress management, I think the terminology itself of stress management is wrong. I personally don't like the word. The team here wanted it to be called as stress management because it seems like more palatable. People might more accept it more. I prefer to call it life management because stress has become inevitable parts of our life, and therefore it's something that's part of our life. It needs to be life management. So we need to manage our stress, which means we are managing our life. But other talks, I've also called this topic quite differently. I've called it harmonization. So we don't want to manage our life, we want to harmonize. And harmonization simply means tuning, fine tuning, just like a musical instrument, like a guitar. So every time you play the guitar, you need to tune the guitar, because if it's too loose, it sounds very shrill. If it's too tight, then the string might snap. So you just need a right amount of tension and right amount of tuning for it to sound right. And I think our bodies and our minds are exactly like a musical instrument, which needs to be fine-tuned every day, and it needs to be tuned every time we want to make a start of the day, for example. Another example I often give for harmonization is like an old-time radio. Digital radio are very much, you press a button, it scans all the stations, and you get into a full tune of all the stations and clarity. Our body and our lives are not like the current digital radio. They are like the old radio where we need to use the two buttons, one to get to the station, and the other one, if anybody's used the old radio, you remember. And the other one, once you get to the station, you have to keep tuning until you get clarity. And life is like the old radio, where you have to retune every day, you have to harmonize, and you have to make a start with the day. Otherwise, it becomes all too overbearing. And our lives have become quite overbearing and overwhelming, and quite stressful, to be frank. In this day and time, when we talk about stress management, we need to compare the times before lockdown and after lockdown, because many of you would want to hear how we manage the stress during and after the lockdown. But I think as a practicing psychiatrist, I used to see a number of things in my clinical practice before the lockdown. People used to come and see me for all sorts of problems, but most commonly they used to come and see me for stress, And the stress would commonly come from the stress of commute, the stress of noise, the chaos, the stress of demands at work, expectations, bullying, harassment, and then returning back home with a long commute, a lot of noise, uh, and then the deadlines, uh, and then pressures to work from home, pressures to take calls after hours, pressures to do work which is outside your time for which you're salaried for. Um, and people were on the verge of severe stress, unremitting stress, on the verge of burnout. Many people would come with consequences of stress and burnout, which was anxiety, which is depression, and increasing in addictions, and marital problems, problems and difficulties in concentration, and so on. So a wide range of mental health, emotional, and psychological problems. So what we got after lockdown, we lost the noise, we lost the chaos, we lost the unnecessary undue demands on us, we lost the competition, we lost, the relativity, we stopped comparing each other's. It was lockdown. Everything has slowed down, and many of our lives have come to a complete standstill. And so, when our lives were chaotic, we were stressed, and when our lives came to a standstill, we're still stressed. And the two stresses were quite different. At the time, we're trying to rush through things and try to make our life as certain as possible and try to make our life uh, as comfortable as possible. And that was causing us stress because we're doing too many things and we wanted to slow down. Now we're doing very little and we're stressed because we can't handle uncertainty of the pandemic, uncertainty of the economy, uncertainty of the future, uncertainty of potential job loss, and so on. What we have gained is we gained peace and quiet. We gained calmness. We gained serenity. Our air became clearer. There were reports that the air quality index in India, especially in Delhi, for example, there was 60% improvement in air quality. We could see things from miles away, which we never could see. Uh, the environment was clearer. The air was clearer. We gained a lot more than we lost. We did lose economic uh, progress. We lost GDP. We lost the progress for a short period of time. I think it's only a short period of time. But we got all the peace and quiet. Yet we are very, very stressed. We are stressed because we are uncertain and we have lost. We're worried about our ability to maintain a comfort and future, and we're worried about where things will take us. Well, I can tell you, none of the crisis will last forever. This crisis is also going to pass. It's just the way we look at it. And when we talk about stress, stress is really about our perception. Nothing outside of you is stressful. Something that is stressful today might not be stressful tomorrow. And for example, if you have a difficult boss in the first month of a new job, it might be a stressful environment to work in. It might be stressful to communicate with him. A month on, it's no longer stressful. Why? Because of your adaptation, because of your ability to work around a difficult boss or difficult environment, and because of your ability to adjust to what is required and match it and harmonize it to your expectations. So what you can do and what is available, you adapt and match, and then you harmonize, and then it no longer is stressful. So which brings us to the point to say that so nothing outside of you is stressful. It is just within you. Our reactions to external reality or perceived uh, illusion of difficulties makes it stressful, and that stress is changeable. What is stressful today might not be stressful tomorrow, and what is stressful for me might not be stressful for you. So it's changeable with time, it's changeable with circumstances, and it's changeable with personality. So the way I look at things might not be same way you look at things. So our perceptions, our attitude towards our external realities makes all the difference. So stress is basically, in simplest definition, is is common and it's a normal physiological and psychological reactions to demands of life. And that's a completely normal reaction. When we are faced with external pressures, we feel stressed. And when the pressures wane or pass, then our stress levels come down. So that is a normal stress, and that is a healthy stress, because some amount of stress will get you activated, will make you more focused, will make you more attentive and vigilant, and will make you speed up. Bit like a project that was pending for a month, you didn't do anything about it, but on a Friday and Saturday, the weekend before you're supposed to submit the project, you can complete it. A month's work can be completed in 2 days. So that's what stress does to people. It is helpful. It is not all unhelpful. So that one need to understand. So stress is normal and it is the helpful parts of our life. But the problem comes when the stress is unremitting. It won't resolve. It won't go away. The difficulties continue to last, just like the pandemic. It started about 2.5, 3 months ago, and the continuity of stress, continuity of uncertainty, continuity of lockdown, and continuity of restrictions has made us more stressed because we don't know quite where this is going. And now we've been told that this might continue for weeks and months, maybe longer. So unremitting stress begins to have an impact on our mind and our body. And on a body, when the stress levels are continues to remain high, it releases adrenaline, which activates your blood pressure, your circulation, your breathing, and it releases anti-stress hormone called cortisol. So if these two hormones remain at high levels, then what happens is that your blood pressure remains high and it becomes into hypertension. Your arteries will get clogged up and your cholesterol levels will go up with the anti-stress hormones. Uh, there are many reports of thyroid becoming more deficient with stress levels. We know from evidence that people with breathing problems like asthma, this get triggered by unremitting stress. Most common consequences of stress being insomnia, inability to sleep when you want to sleep. So an inadequate quantity and quality of sleep will have enormous negative bearings on your mind and body. So this is what unremitting stress does to people. And when we talk about stress management, we're talking about the unremitting stress as to uh, how we identify that stress and how we manage it. Stress gives you signs in your body and your mind, and that's what you need to understand. Because when somebody is stressed and experiencing continuous stress, then the body starts to give warning signs, and warning signs might be physical, psychological, and behavioral. And so, in physical signs, as I mentioned earlier, one may experience racing heartbeat, they might experience flushing feelings, they may feel hot, they may feel sweaty, they may feel shaky, and they may have indigestion. Most commonly, people get acidity and they get acid reflux. So all the physical symptoms of the body, they might get aches and pains in the body and so on. They might get headache, they might get dizzy spells. So these are warning signs of stress, physical signs. Then there are psychological signs where the person might be anxious, they might be feeling depressed or gloomy, they might feel apprehensive, they might think the worst of the future. And they might have insomnia, as I mentioned earlier. They might be irritable, they might be angry, they might be pessimistic, they might be negative, and they might be cynical. And then there are behavioral symptoms which are in which a person would uh, experience things like becoming withdrawn, becoming isolated, keeping away from people, not wanting to join in, not wanting to take initiatives, not wanting to complete the projects that are pending and it's demanding, and so on. Or you can also again become cynical and you can start to bully people, you can start to harass people, you can start to irritate, and that you see a lot in the workplaces. So these are physical, psychological, and behavioral symptoms of stress. And once you start to see any of these symptoms in yourself or in a colleague, and funny enough, uh, often the signs of stress are more visible to other people. Signs of stress in you is visible to other people. So if somebody is becoming cynical and more irritable and not quite themselves, then you can start to realize that something's happening. And all that it takes is to ask them to say everything's okay, I'm not wrong, are you coping up well, and so on. Uh, so these are the how stress manifests. So that then brings us to say that and stress not just have psychological bearings as in terms of psychiatric disorders and addictions, as I mentioned earlier, but it also has physical bearings in terms of developing hypertension, heart problems, escalation of asthma, escalation of skin problems, impairment of immunity. For example, if you're stressed out, your immunity is down, you're more susceptible or more likely to get infections, and so on. So it has bearings on your body and your mind. So therefore, it's quite important to understand normal and unremitting stress, how it manifests, how it gives you warning signs, and how it has impacts on your body and mind. Once we've done that, then we need to say how do we manage stress? How do we harmonize? How do we fine tune ourselves on a daily basis? And management of stress is, I think, is not a one-off thing. I don't think there is a set formula uh, for people that I can give or you can learn to say that once I know this formula, then I'm no longer going to be stressed. The stress is a part of our life. uh, the world is dynamic. Our reactions to the world is also dynamic. It's ever changing, and the adaptation is continuously happening. As it's a saying that goes, that change is the only thing that's permanent in life. And likewise, stress will come and go, but you need to learn to harmonize, learn to manage yourself well. Uh, in a lockdown situation, one of the commonest advice I give to people is to find sources of stress. When you're at work, the sources of stress would have been present demands of colleague, improper communication, improper time management, and so on. Same thing applies to a time when you're in lockdown and many of you are working from home. Same thing applies to a situation where you need to do a very effective time management, and that has become even more important as when you work at office because there is no structure to your work. uh, the workflow has changed. It can extend up into your leisure time. It can go into late in the afternoon and late in the evenings. Because you have the technology with you, you're expected to respond to emails and so on. So you need to manage your time effectively. And the time management can be done effectively by creating a clear timeline between when the work starts, when the work ends, and when your leisure time, family time starts, and when your resting time starts. So you need to do the time management by outlining the chunks of the day when you're going to do certain activities. And time management will also happen when you have a fixed set routine. And in this case, you need to establish a new routine because you need to now balance between work and if you have family, then to manage family, keep them busy and engage with something else while you're doing work, and then get back to them. And you have to keep switching and swapping between the two things. Therefore, it's more challenging and more difficult, especially if you have a young family at home. So time management with a new routine and newly adapted routine would be one of the first ways of trying to harmonize. Uh, the second thing I would like to say in this lockdown period is that if you have been consuming a lot of data, a lot of information, a lot of news from social media, from your news networks, and so on, then I would recommend that you stop or reduce consumption of news and information from any and all sources. Choose only one or two recommended sources by the government. For example, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare website for corona updates, WHO.international for international updates on corona and so on, maybe newspaper, and no more. You don't want to get a lot of forwards from social media because what you are getting is not just data and information, but you're getting negativity, negative vibrations, and pessimism from all sources. And that can become a very pertinent external source of stress. We have to adapt to our external reality. Coronavirus outbreak, the death, the damage it's causing to the economy, it's all real. It's not illusionary. It's all happening. But will we ever come out of this? I think almost certainly we will come out of this very soon because we have always come out of crisis and we will do. But we need to look out of ourselves by getting away from the negative source of energy. So that's the second one. The third one, which I mentioned, is or mentioned earlier, is to acknowledge your emotions and feelings. The fear, the anxiety, and sadness is the commonest thing that is happening during the lockdown period. So you need to acknowledge and accept your emotions because when you do that, that's the first step to bring about changes. Because when you accept that you feel anxious and fearful or worried about things, that's when you start to look for solutions. So, in other words, if you only think about a problem, then you're not going to be able to move on to solutions. So, you need to say that I have a problem and I need to find a solution. So, you move from problem orientation to solution orientation. So, that is very, very important. Acknowledge and accept emotions and acknowledge and accept if you're getting stressed, you're getting worked up. Okay? Another way of reducing stress and harmonizing is to communicate how you feel with one or two trusted sources, not with everybody. You don't want to have major gossip about what's happening around everywhere, but you want to have a deep talk with one or two close friends or family members to say how you feel, so that you're heard about your feelings, but you also hear your family members' fears and anxieties. And when you share, uh, you will feel unburdened and lighter in your head and in your heart. There's a saying I remembered which says, "A problem shared is a problem halved." So when you talk about a problem, as it is, the problem will get minimized and reduced significantly. So connect and communicate. Just like Narendra Modi, our Prime Minister, said that during the outbreak and during the pandemic, enhance, maintain social distancing, but enhance social connections. And that was just such a timely information he provided to people to say that keep away from people, but increase connection through the use of technology, through the use of media, and through the use of means that we have to improve and enhance connections, not just to share our burden and stress and anxiety, but also to resolve unattended issues. Pre-lockdown, when we were running around, when we ignored our relationships, when we ignored our personal priorities, when we ignored our health, all the unattended issues need to be attended now because we now have a little bit more time. So we can choose this time to worry and feel stressed, or we can choose see this time as an opportunity to bring about changes by improving connections. The last few things I want to say is to find ways to do quite the opposite of stress, because stress can cause anxiety and depression and fear and so on. So we need to do opposite of stress, which is finding ways to relax. And there are many ways of relaxation. One of the most effective ways of relaxation is to sleep. And people have confusion about sleep. I think there's no confusion. It's very clear. A body needs 7 to 8 hours of sleep for feeling rested and rejuvenated, and to recuperate and return back to your previous day's functioning. And you need to rest for 7 to 8 hours. A lot of research have suggested very clearly that you need 95% of people need about 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Only 2.5% need less than 6 hours. Prime Minister being one of them, and about 2.5% of people need more than 9 hours of sleep. But all the other people, 95% of people of all ages, need about 7 to 8 hours of sleep, unless there are toddlers and young children where they need 10 to 12 hours of sleep. Okay, so sleeping is very important for good rest, rejuvenation, and returning back to a good level of functioning. Prioritize sleep. Whatever else you do in the 24-hour time, make sure that 8 hours or one third of your day is set aside for sleep. Because if you don't do that, the remaining two-thirds of the day, which is 16 hours, is going to get disrupted and disturbed. And we don't want that. Because when you sleep, you are more attentive, you're more focused, you soak up information like a sponge, and you feel happier and less stressed. The other time-tested technique is exercise. Exercise is proven to reduce stress, anxiety, depression, and a lot of other emotional problems. And there's a lot of data to suggest that 30 to 45 minutes of moderate intensity exercise for 4 to 5 days a week, so it adds about 150 minutes to 200 minutes per week, would be a good amount of activity and exercise to keep you fit, to keep you healthy, and to keep you happy. So exercise, very, very important. You need to put that in your calendar for at least 5 days a week. Okay. One of the age-old techniques that we follow in India is yoga. So yoga is very, very good for harmonizing the mind and the body. And it's well established that when you do the physical postures, it improves the flexibility, but it also improves, it synchronizes your body with your mind. And when you do hold the postures in one place and focus on breathing, and when you do pranayamas as a part of the yoga itself, then you're harmonizing the mind and body, and you're synchronizing in such a way that it all works in tandem, just like a well-tuned musical instrument. So yoga is well established, and one of the most important things I tell people is to meditate. And meditation are of many types. People have this notion that meditation means that you have to sit down in one place, close your eyes, um, and meditate. You don't need to do that. Meditations are of many types. Briefly, there are dynamic meditation and static meditation. And dynamic meditation can be jogging, it can be playing a musical instrument, it can be it can be running, um, it can be gardening. And static meditation is where you sit down. And suppose if you're doing it sitting down and doing meditation, eyes closed, try to focus on your breath, And when you do that, the mind will drift off with various thoughts. You need to do nothing about it. You need to identify and be observant of what your thoughts are, observe them, and then let them go, and bring your mind back to the breathing. When you do that, your mind will drift more, and then again try to bring back your mind onto the breath. Try to feel the breath, try to hear the breath, try to visualize the breath as well as entering from your nose deep into the lungs and coming back. When you do that, you develop an ability to hold and attain, hold the concentration to where you want it to be. So in this case, you're trying to hold the concentration on the breath, mind drifts and bring it back. So when you keep doing that repeatedly, initially for 5 to 10 minutes, and then subsequently you can do it for half an hour. And when you do regular meditation, what you will find is that you're calmer, you're more at peace, you're more attentive, you're more intuitive, and you will end up having more clarity in your ability to do work. So this is a very, very important aspect of our lives because our minds are so cluttered with so many things, whether lockdown or no lockdown. By ability to give yourself that 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes, half an hour for meditation will help you to get clarity. So I recommend people do meditation, if not any given time, soon after waking up in the morning for 15 minutes and just before sleeping in the night. If you can do that, then you get two things. You sleep well because you meditated and you're in a calm state of mind at night. And as soon as you wake up, your mind is clear in the morning and then you start the day. So you start the day well and you end the day well by meditation. So if you can follow these things on a regular basis, then I can't see how you won't be more harmonized, you won't be more synchronized, and you won't be more happier in your life. You know, we are human beings, we are complex animals with complex thinking patterns. Even a phone like this needs to be synchronized every now and then with the cloud backup or with a computer, otherwise it gets clogged up. So if we are going to synchronize the phone all the time and to get it functioning well, we need to do the same for our minds and for our body to be able to harmonize and to live a healthier and happier life.
Pretty clear, and it was a good timing that we had this, and definitely important to reinforce, and especially that renaming this as a life management rather than coping with stress, because I think these are very good practical day-to-day techniques. So I really thank you for sharing those with us.
Absolutely, and as I mentioned in the beginning, uh, I think when we are in chaotic state, we are stressed, and when we are in a calm state, we are stressed. So we need to adapt and enjoy what we have now. This is not going to last forever, and then we will going to get back to a chaotic state. So either we stop complaining now, or we have to stop complaining later.
True, very true.
Very well, thank you so much, then, and I wish you all the best. Hopefully, you take some tips and try to harmonize your life in keeping with the requirement and in keeping with the need for adaptation.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah.